what are some like dynasty movers and shakers? What are some younger guys that are starting to jump forward?
Brandon Aiyuk. It was certainly this summer that I was moving him up anyway.
I've been high on Brandon Aiyuk for like the last 3 years.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Now that we have 17 games, we're close to midseason. What are some like dynasty movers and shakers? What are some younger guys that are starting to jump forward? Some older guys that are maybe taking a step back? I get that question all the time in my Discord. So I could think of no better person to help me kind of have a level conversation about this than you, Waldman. So we're going to just kind of kick it around here at sort of this point of the season, 6 weeks in, some guys that were moving up and down. And you know me, I want to start positive. I want to start on the high end here. So give me one wide receiver that is moving up your dynasty rankings so far this season.
Brandon Aiyuk. It was certainly this summer that I was moving him up anyway, and I had him in my top 15, at least in redraft and probably in dynasty as before the season even got underway. But getting a chance to see it actually on the field once again is just an additional confirmation that he needs to be considered a primary receiver in terms of what you're looking for as a fantasy guy with in 12 team formats. He's just so good after the catch. He's become a strong route runner. I like what he does at the catch point. I was a little worried after the first couple weeks with the shoulder injury and thinking, is he going to have to keep laying out for these things? He's going to be banged up all year, but looks like he's rebounded nicely. And I'm excited about seeing him as really a solid wide receiver one for a dynasty team to build around.
Obviously, you're in good company with Brandon Aiyuk. He's he's somebody that I have on my list to move up as well. So we're on the same page with this first one here. And it's funny, Waldman, because like I mentioned, I get these questions in my Discord, right? Like, when are you going to update the dynasty rankings? And part of me is like, yo, guys, like, I can't be doing this every single week, or else that's like a betrayal of the format, right? However, I look at my dynasty rankings, I'm like, I'm still too low on Brandon Aiyuk. And I've been high on Brandon Aiyuk for like the last 3 years. So I've been kind of ahead of the curve on Aiyuk, but even my ranking now, I think still needs to go up. It needs to be reflecting of what you just said, in that he is a true blue NFL wide receiver one at this point. I'm curious from your standpoint, what's been sort of your evaluation process of Aiyuk prior to this year? And what do you think this year he's done as an individual to take that next step in your eyes?
Early on, I thought he was a very good slant and double move player out of Arizona State. And certainly the after the catch stuff was compelling, but I didn't see as much from him as a route runner with what I watched to be able to conclusively project that he was going to become a primary wide receiver in the league. And, there were certainly people who felt that way, but I felt when I was watching him, it seemed to me it was more rooted in athletic ability than necessarily, technical conceptual skills. But as the seasons have progressed, and the fact that, one, he made it through the obstacle course that is Kyle Shanahan's expectations for an offense. That's a glowing thing right there. Shanahan's one of those guys that's kind of a perfectionist of what he wants, knows exactly how he wants it done. And if Aiyuk could get through that, that tells me that, one, he's learned all three positions the way that he needs to. And then it started to manifest on the field. And then when you have a player like Purdy, who processes the field well and can buy time in the pocket and doesn't seem to be harassed, doesn't seem to see his game go on tilt when he takes a hit or gets gets pressure. He can do that a little bit better than Garoppolo. I've seen a player who's doing better on in-breaking routes, who's making adjustments on plays, and then you can see with that, the timing routes were nice. And so That's really what extended for me, because I felt like I saw a slant player and a double move guy who occasionally got some screens and some crossing routes at Arizona State. And I'm like, that's nice, but it wasn't enough for me to move forward. Now I feel like I'm seeing a more well-rounded route runner who connects well with his quarterback and reads the defense on the same page with his quarterback.
I agree with a lot of what you said, that he was mostly like kind of a wonky route runner and like an off man coverage merchant. Like the press man stuff was not really there on his collegiate film. But then you saw him as a rookie and, 83rd percentile success rate versus man, 83rd against press as a rookie. And I was like, okay, now I'm in on Brandon Aiyuk based on what he's showing. But even Kyle Shanahan wasn't in on Brandon Aiyuk yet. Like there were still some details that needed to be tweaked out. Like he needed to get better at zone coverage, reading defenses, as you mentioned. And Shanahan he's a hard dude to please, right? Like he has really high standards, especially from the receiver position, right? Because he used to play receiver. There's a whole background there. So the fact that he did make it through that gauntlet is a credit to Aiyuk. It shows that he can work his ass off. It shows that he can really be that type of grinder. I actually think Waldman, in a weird way, Aiyuk making that jump from like an off man coverage merchant and like, again, taking that step in the NFL, I could see it leading to some bad evaluations for players going forward. Like, well, Brandon Aiyuk did it, and he was a bad route runner in college, and he became, I think, one of the 10 best route runners in the NFL right now. It's not going to happen for everybody. Like I've probably said it on the show, like, oh, maybe Quentin Johnston could do like Brandon Aiyuk sort of jump. And we're recording this just for transparency before Monday Night Football tonight. So maybe Quentin Johnston had 10 catches for 190 yards, but I tend to doubt it. Like I said, I think that could, that could be a situation where we do too much projecting based on what we saw out of Aiyuk. And so that's a little bit of like a cautionary tale, but a big credit to him as a player.